This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So is my screen visible?
Yeah, visible.
Yeah.
Okay. So good morning everyone once again. So today we are going to learn about few topics in Git. First thing is what is version control system and types of version control systems, and then what is Git and GitHub. So today we are going to start Git and GitHub. These are major tools in DevOps environment. And the next thing is how to create a GitHub account. Okay. So and the next question is like how to import the code from GitHub account. So like this, we are going to check all these topics today. Okay. For example, let's say we have developers in our organization. Okay, what they will do. So whenever we have a project, we will write code. Okay, so our developers they will write code. So it's not a one-day process. It's not a one-day process. So for every 2 weeks we will be having one meeting called sprint meeting. Okay, for every 2 weeks they will be having called one meeting called sprint meeting. In this sprint meeting, our manager or team lead they will decide which feature needs to be developed. Who is the developer going to work on which feature? So they will decide these kind of activities. So based on that, for example, there is one developer. Developer one is working on a banking feature. Okay. So he needs to finish that in 2 weeks. He needs to write the code in 2 weeks. So developer two he needs to write a code for this loan features. Okay, loans feature. So then in the same 2 weeks, he also needs to write the code for this loans feature. Likewise, we'll be having a sprint meeting for every 2 weeks. So let's say we'll consider developer one. Okay, developer one on day one, he has written suppose some 10 lines of code. Okay, and in his local laptop, I mean in his local repository. Starting. So in his local repository, he'll be writing the code. What do you mean by local repository? It is nothing but in your laptop, he'll create one folder, okay, like this, and inside that folder, he'll name the folder with his project name. Okay, suppose if it's a banking, he'll name it as a banking, and inside this, he will create one file. Okay, so generally, we know how to create files like git bash and then fetch. Like this, you create one file and he will write the content inside that file, either by using Visual Studio Code or Eclipse. So, like that, on first day, let's assume he write 10 lines of code. Okay, on second day, on day two, he wrote some 20 lines of code. Okay, the same local repository, place is same. So, on day, for example, let's say on day three, he wrote some 30 lines of code. So, like this, let's say on day 10, he wrote 10 lines of code, sorry, 100 lines of code. So at particular point of time he realized that he did some mistake. Okay, he identified that on day 7 the code is correct. Okay, till day 7 the code is correct. So he wants to restart from day 7 onwards. Like he wants to take this code and also he wants to modify the code from 8th day onwards. Okay, from day 8 onwards, again this developer wants to make some changes until 10th day. Okay, let's say for example till 70 lines the code is fine. Okay, but from 8th day onwards the code is not working, like it has some errors. He identified that a bit later. So on 10th day he identified that. So again what he'll do, he needs to go back to the 7th day and he needs to use that code and he wants to make the changes. Okay, he'll make the changes. So for all these activities we need a tracking mechanism. Okay, so tracking mechanism is like we need to give versions to these changes. Let's say for example for this we have v1, for day 2 we have v2. Just for example purpose I'm explaining this. So for day 3 we have version 3. Like this we need to track all the changes. Okay, how we can do that? We have version control system. The short form is VCS. Okay, VCS. Version control system is a software which is used to track the changes made to the source code during software development process. Okay, so version control system is a software. It is used to track changes made to the source code. Source code and code is both are same. Okay, so changes made to the source code during software development process. So what is Git? So Git is a version control system. It's a popular version control system which is being used in multiple organizations. Okay, Git is a popular version control system which is being used in multiple organizations. Almost all 90 to 99% of the industries are using Git only. Okay, we have some other popular, what do you say, version control systems like Subversion, Git, and the next thing is Mercurial. Okay, like this we have other version control systems as well. Okay, and so okay, it is fine. Developer he wrote the code in his personal laptop. Okay, and he's working on it. But let's say here developer 1 is working on banking feature and developer 2 is working on loans feature. All these features should be accumulated in one application. Okay, like for example it is, if it is HSBC bank, all these features should be accumulated in one application. So for that purpose, um, maybe developer 2, for developer 2 the code of banking, okay, the code written by bank developer 1 might be useful to him. Okay, so he cannot go and ask him developer 1 to provide a banking code. So that is not a standard practice to share codes using different platforms. For this purpose we have one common location called GitHub. Okay, and also when developer write the code in his local laptop, okay, in his local repository, he won't be able to build it. So we need the ultimate goal is to build that code and we need to achieve the output. So for that purpose we have to save that code in a common location. So GitHub is a, so other common location is called source code repository. Okay, source code repository. Source code repository, it is nothing but code written by developer should be maintained in a shared location. Okay. So if any new developer joins in your organization, he also wants to work on that banking project. Okay. You don't know, like he cannot get that project from anywhere, from any other developers. So he can simply get it from the source code repository tools. Okay, here some popular source code repository tools are GitHub, Bitbucket, and TFS. Okay, TFS is nothing but Team Foundation Server from Microsoft. So these are some popular version control source code management tools. Okay, we can call them as source code management tools. So source code repository, what is source code management tool? So inside this source code management tool, we will create repository. Repository is nothing but folder. Okay, for every developer, suppose if some Hari is the developer working for a banking project. Okay, so he needs to he will be he has to create one folder, one repository inside this uh, GitHub with the name of banking. Okay, so that he can save his code in that banking folder or repository. So that is the meaning of source code repository. Source code management tool in the sense nothing but it's a software. Okay, so it is GitHub and Bitbucket and TFS. So these are popular source code management tools. Okay, so next thing is in this version control systems we have two types of version control systems. One is centralized version control system, and second one is distributed version control system. So what is centralized version control system? Okay, earlier before this Git came into picture, so we have subversion. Okay, in subversion we have a central server where all the developers used to save their code. Okay, central server is also called a client server where all the developers used to save their code. So they write their code in the local laptop and they push their code to central server. So in this centralized version control system, what happens is developer will be having access to only limited files. So in real time, okay, in real time, codes will be like we have multiple files in the code. It's not a single file. Let's say for example, Jenkins GitHub. So for this Jenkins software, we have multiple folders and multiple files. Likewise, see multiple folders and multiple files. Likewise, for one project, suppose even if it's a banking project or any project, we will be having multiple files. Okay, so in centralized version control system, if any developer wants to access any file, he will only get the access to that specific file. Suppose if he wants to modify the Jenkins file, he will only get the access to that Jenkins file. Like whoever the admin of this version control system, like this centralized version control system, subversion, okay, he will provide only access to that Jenkins file. So he cannot have the copy of complete code. So that is the main disadvantage of centralized version control system. Okay, here you will be having access to, or else you can say that developer will be having limited access to the code. And the centralized version control system, it is a bit slow compared to the latest distributed version control system. Okay, so suppose in the centralized version control system, if this client server is down, let's say for example, this server, the complete server is down. What happens? It will take some time to set, fix that server, and until the code won't be available to the developer to work in his laptop. Okay, if something happens to the server, code won't be available to the developer. Okay, so because they won't be having a local copy of complete code. So they won't be having local copy of complete code. So that for that purpose they cannot work on the features, and their work will be on hold for some time until the server is up and running. Okay, until the issue is fixed, they have to wait for some time, and then only they will be able to access the code. So whereas in distributed version control system, what happens is developer can import the complete code. Okay, so like in this GitHub, for example, let's say in centralized version control system, he will be getting access to only this specific file, whichever the specific file he requested, he will be getting access to that specific file. But in case of distributed version control system, he can get the access for complete code. Okay, so GitHub is a distributed version control system. Okay, and this he can use this link, and he can import a complete code in his local laptop. So whenever a new developer joins in that organization, let's say for example in Infosys or in TCS, some developer wants to manager assign him some task to work on some feature. Okay, once he get the access, he needs to go to this location and he needs to copy this link. I'm just telling you an example. He needs to go to this location. He needs to copy this link, and he can download that code. I'll show you that method later. So, like this, in distributed version control system, developer can import the complete code. And the meaning of distributed itself is saying that distributed ante panchtam ante. So, a complete code can be shared among multiple developers. So, the complete code can be shared among multiple developers. Multiple developers can have access to the full code. Okay, and it's very fast compared to centralized version control system. Centralized version control system, if it is down, we cannot. It will take some time to make it up and running. But in case of distributed version control system, the developer is no need to wait for some time. So because if he has the local copy of the complete code, he can work on changes. Okay, he can work on changes. That is the advantage of distributed version control system. Here he will be having local copy of complete code, and his laptop. So even if the server is down, he no need to wait for the time until it is fixed. He can work on work on his changes. Okay. So um, we know like we have installed Git is a version control system, and GitHub is a source code repository. We already installed Git. Okay, I just want to show like I'm going into this specific directory. git bash. Okay. I just opened the git hyphen version. You can check the version of the code. Sorry, version of the git install in your laptop. What is this git version? So the command is used to check the version of the git. Okay. And next thing is git bash. We already opened git bash. What is this git bash? It works as a Linux interface for executing Linux commands on Windows operating system. Okay. So git bash is nothing but it works as a Linux interface for executing Linux commands in the Windows operating system. And we know that developer will write the code, will create a local repository, and for example like this banking video. So he will create one file and he will make the changes, and he needs to push the code to the remote repository called GitHub. So now we will see how to create a GitHub account. So first thing is you need to go to github.com. I'm clearly writing the steps. Open github.com. Okay. And next thing is it is quite simple, like creating our Facebook or Gmail account. So click on this sign up. So here it will display like welcome to GitHub. Let's begin the adventure. So we need to provide our Gmail account for creating this GitHub account. Okay, I'm giving my what is it? Gmail account. Python DevOps 001 @gmail.com. Continue. So you need to set up some password. So it will ask for some strong password because it should have some special characters on something like that. So we can continue. You need to set up some username. Okay. For for easy understanding purpose, I will be giving this username. So I give DevOps 001. Okay. I'm setting up this username only. Then you need to click on continue. It will ask for confirmation like would you like to receive product data updates and announcements via email. Okay. So we don't want to receive any product updates or anything like that from GitHub. So you simply click on N. N for no. It is the meaning of N is for no. You can click on continue. So it will ask to verify that we are human. Okay. We need to start this project. So 99% of the time it will ask for this verification only. You need to simply select what is the spiral galaxy. Even if you Google it, you can find what is the spiral galaxy image. Okay, this is the spiral galaxy image. It will be something like a flower. It contains something else. Okay, you need to choose this. Again, it will ask for the confirmation. You need to choose this. Yes. So verification is done. You need to click on create account. So what it will GitHub will do, it will send a launch code to your Gmail account. See, 13467902 13467902. See, the verification is completed, and here how many team members will be working with you. So like this is my private account. So, I mean, this is specific to me. So that is the practice purpose I created this. I'm just selecting just me. You can select student or teacher. Like let's select student and then click on continue. So this GitHub it will ask different features like what specific features are you interested in using. Okay. So collaborative coding, like if you want to come on create pull request, notification, code review. If you want to perform all the change related activities to the code, you can select this option. And for CI/CD purpose, if you want to build the code in GitHub itself, we have one more option for that. Okay, you can select this option. For security purpose, you can select this option. Okay, so for project management, we need to basically it's better to select all these options. Then click on continue. So here GitHub is an open source project and as well as licensed software. What do you mean by open source and licensed? So per month, if you want to perform some 2000 CI/CD activities, okay, you can do that using free account, okay, and also 500 MB of package for storage. But in real organizations like projects, Infosys or TCS and in companies, they will be having multiple projects and they will be having large data. So for that purpose, they have to work. Also, they have to provide access to multiple users. For that purpose, they will select this team, okay, and they will go with some planning, this license version of this GitHub. But for practice purpose, we don't need that much, availability. So we can click on continue. You can select this option and we can click on continue. So if you say this is a GitHub account. Okay, so this is a fresh GitHub account, so it doesn't have any codes or it doesn't have any repositories. We have to create codes and we have to we have to create repositories and we have to create some files. Okay, so GitHub and Google Drive both are some they both are like storage services. I mean, suppose if I'm writing something, if I'm creating some video, if I want to share that video to multiple people, I can upload that video in GitHub. Sorry, I can upload that video in Google Drive, and I can share access to multiple users. Like this, you can also in the software development environment, you can write the code in your local laptop, and you can save that code in this GitHub remote laptop. So let's see how to create a repository. So, but before that, I will try to explain the options. See here, I sign in as a Cycle and DevOps user. Okay, and if you click on your profile, it will show the information about you. Let's click on this. See, it doesn't. I did not create any public repositories yet. We are going to create it in a few minutes. And your repository, if you click on this repository, if we have any repositories, it will list out all the repositories and code spaces and projects. Suppose if you are working for multiple projects, it will list out all the projects. Okay, stars and lists. Basically, we don't use this. So we have all these features like settings. If you want to sign out of your GitHub account, you can click on this sign out. Okay. So you want to go to the home page. You need to click on this logo. This is a GitHub logo, and you have to create simple Git repository. Okay. So click on this, create a new repository. So owner will be the user, okay, the admin of the account. In case of in our real-time environment, okay, suppose in projects, what happens is they will be having multiple repositories. Okay, so for example, you take the GitHub one. So let's take some sample code. See, see here we have show me the code slash Python and this cosmic Python. So these are all repositories. Okay, these are created by multiple developers. Okay, so if you click on this code, see, folks, HORX folks is the developer who wrote this code. Okay, so in real-time organizations, what happens is this repository names. Okay, these repository names, it will be like this. For example, if it is in free Infosys, in free project one. So I'm just giving you a sample example. Okay, under that, otherwise it is infrastructure Infosys infrastructure slash and the project name. Suppose it's a banking project and the name of the project. Okay, like HDFC banking. So like this, we'll be having repositories. But in our case, we are the users, right? So we are the owner. So we can keep our repository name under our username. Let's say, for example, we will create one project called project 001. Okay, and this description. The description, it is nothing but if you want to explain about your project, suppose if it's Java code, right? You can explain about your project. You can provide the description. Let's say Java. Okay. So the next thing is public or private. So what do you mean by public? Public, it is nothing but anyone with the internet can access this repository. See, I have opened Python codes in the GitHub. So these are all public codes. Okay. Whenever they created this repositories, they selected this option, public. So that is the reason we are able to access their code. Okay. Anyone with the internet access can use this code. Sometimes developers wants to develop something, some sample code which is used to send an email. So they don't know how to write the code as well. Okay. Send an email. So like if you search this like this in the GitHub, at least you'll find some idea. Okay. See, if Python code that starts API, create charts and send it an email attachment. So like this, they can take it as a reference and they can take this code as a reference and they can create their own applications. For that purpose, if someone if some developer wants to create some advanced version of Jenkins, he can do that. You can just take the code from Jenkins and you can use this code. If he has a developing skills, then he can create his own Jenkins. So basically, this is the advantage of public repositories. But in our projects, like in our organizations, we don't select this public option. It should be a restricted one because only few developers they need to have access to the code. So like only your project members, team members, or your manager or team lead, they need to have access to that code. In that case, we need to select private option. For the time being, this is my own account. So I'm just selecting this public account. Okay. But in our organizations, multiple users can get access to the account. So that is the reason. In organizations, only the restricted users can get access to the reason to the code. That is the reason we are selecting private option. Okay. So what is this readme file? So here, if you check this, we have readme.md. What is this readme.md? So developer will explain how to use this code. Okay. So what is the purpose of his code, advantages of his code. Okay. And what is the resource that he is using. All this information developer will provide it because we cannot understand anything from the code. If we have some guidance or steps, we can use that code and we can develop our own code. So for that purpose, developers they will create this readme.txt file. So readme.md file. Okay. But in our case, I don't want to add readme.file because we have not created any project yet. When we create a project, we can add in other projects. For example, going forward in other projects, we can add this in readme.file. Git ignore mostly, we don't use this feature, so you can avoid this. Choose license. So, for example, if you're developing some projects, okay, in our organizations, we will be having a license for projects, okay. So you need to select this license. So since this is for practice purpose, we are creating here this public repository, and also we are not selecting any readme file. We are just creating a repository. See, under the owner, I have created a project name, and I have selected public, and then create repository. Okay. So by default, it will show some options like code, issues, pull request, actions, projects, okay, and settings. Mostly, this code, it is the place where we will have all the code. So if you open Jenkins in the GitHub, we directly got this. See, in the code section, we have all the code and related information. So this is written by some dependent boot, okay, the admin of this Jenkins this is software. Okay. So here pull request is nothing but if he is making any changes, okay, then he need to accept this change in this repository. So for that purpose, we will create pull request. Going forward, we will see how to create pull request as well. So the actions security, we don't use this action much. Okay, the security contains some security policies. Okay, it will be in an enabled state so that our project is in safe state without it won't be having any hacking effects or something like that. So let's go to our repository. So since this is a blank repository, we don't have anything in our project. Okay. So here we have some commands like create a new repository on the command line and push the code to this repository. Suppose if it's a new project, he'll be creating this local repository and he'll be creating file, and the developer will push the code using below steps. Okay, so we can do that later. If he wants to push the code from existing repository, he can do that using the below commands. Okay. So this link HTTPS or SSH link is to copy the code. Okay. For example, let's say I click on this HTTPS. I just want to clone this project. Okay. For better purpose, we also create one more repository. For better understanding purpose, let me create one more repository called project 002. Okay, selecting public, creating one repository. Okay. So here under project, we have option to add readme file as well. Okay, I'll show you once again. We recommend every repository include readme file. Okay, we can add readme file here. So in this project 002, we can provide some information like this project is for practice purpose. Okay, and commit is nothing but the changes made to the file. Okay, here you can mention anything like updated readme. Optional description, we don't need to give any description. If you want to give, you can give it. So commit new file. Click on commit new file. What happens? So once this readme file is created, so you can see the content information. Okay, this project is for sample practice purpose. We wrote this content. Okay, so I want to import this code in my local laptop. How I can do that? Okay, you can simply click on this HTTPS link. Okay, you'll be having one link on this HTTP. If you click on this code, you'll be having HTTPS link. See here, HTTPS github.com. So I get DevOps 001. And if you copy this, you need to go to some particular location in your laptop where you want to download this code and git bash there. Okay, right click and git bash, open git bash. So just use git clone and the HTTPS link. Loading into project 002. So what it will do, it will create the same copy of this remote repository inside our local laptop. Okay, inside our local laptop, it will create same copy of remote repository. We created repository with project 002 name, right? So it will create this project 002 repository in our local laptop. And also along with that, you will get readme.md file. And also it will create some .git folder. This .git folder, it is nothing but it is a directory which contains all the information about code changes and user configuration. Okay, so basically we don't have to work or do anything in this .git folder. We have to modify only files which has code. So if you open this readme.md, let's say let's example. See, this project is for practice purpose. Okay, so what is the command that we used for downloading the code? These are method clusters. Yeah. Git clone it is a command to import the code from import the code or create local copy of the code remote repository. Remote repository is nothing but the repository which is present in GitHub account. Okay. Syntax will be like this. So git clone https and then GitHub link. Syntax will be like this. So if you execute this command, it will create. So each and every time, suppose if you want to download some Jenkins code, you need to go to this code and you need to click on this link and again git clone, right click and paste that link, and if you hit enter, it will pull all the code. So this code, it will be in GBs, so it will take some time. So that is the reason I am not downloading this code, and even it is not useful for us. Okay. So this is the command to download the code from GitHub to local repository. Okay. What else is there? So for today's session only, we have limited members. That is the reason. So I'm covering only 4 topics, okay? Because these are important, very important topics like GitHub workflow, and how to save the code changes in the local repository, and also how to push the code from local repo to remote repo. So this is also very important because we need to save our code from local repository to remote repository. So we will cover our remaining 3 topics in the next class. Okay. Shishmita, hello.
Yeah, Sai Kiran. Yeah.
So
Done.
you can start the recording.
Okay.